Hi, this is Dr. Richard Ruling, welcoming you again to a Total Health channel and to the ABCs of End Times. Trying to simplify it for you and believe that we can make sense out of it. In a nutshell, the end time is a 7-year period, and it's based on the fact that Joseph had a 7-year famine in his time. It was expressed two different ways, once for his time, once for end time. The king of Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon ate grass for 7 years while Babylon was being humbled. And then the conquest of Jericho with 6 days to make a trip around Jericho each day blowing a trumpet. And in the 7th day they went around 7 times, 7 trumpets. That's like the 6 trumpets of Revelation 8 and 9, and then the 7 last plagues in the 7th year. That's strong evidence, and those 7 years are really split evenly, where God in Revelation 11 verse 3 is going to give to his 2 witnesses, that's Old and New Testament, power for 1260 days. And it says they have the power to shut the heavens and turn water to blood. I believe in the end time God is going to anoint a group of people, I think 144,000, who are scattered around this world, but who in their local areas will bring judgment. The judgment specified in Revelation 11:6 is power to shut the heavens, like that's what Elijah did, and to turn water to blood, that's what Moses did in Egypt. And that's the first 2 trumpets. Revelation 8:7 is when all the trees burn up, or I'm sorry, a third of the trees and all the grass burns up. That's like a drought. And then the water to blood is in Revelation 8:8. So we're looking forward to those times coming soon when God is going to do that. We're really not in the end times yet, but I believe about to start from all the indications. And so let's look at it again. There's one more evidence for a 7-year ending that is suggested by a double application of Daniel 8:14. In verse 13, one saint tells another saint how long, and he says under 2,300 days. But the saint that's doing the talking is Palmoni, means wonderful numberer, or numberer of secrets. And what's so wonderful about 2,300 years? There's lots of time prophecy in the Bible, but I think it's full of wonder that it can have a double meaning. Okay, the best scholars say that the meaning of the sanctuary shall be cleansed means cleansing to be cleansed. Not just cleanse once, boom, like there are a lot of people believe 1844, the investigative judgment began that cleansing. But if there's a double application, it could also mean 2,300 literal days in the end time. It's about 6 1/3 years for it to be cleansed, finished, okay? And I believe that it could have that meaning. There was a Jewish fellow by the name of F.C. Gilbert over 100 years ago, wrote an article, published it in the Adventist Review, in which he gave that double meaning possibility, Palmoni, wonderful number, and a double application possibility. So let's keep an open mind that the time charts that pioneers had in 1844 could reapply. And we could see an impending, I believe, what will be the kickoff sign, really. The heads-up sign will be the surrounding of Jerusalem. Christ said in Luke 21, verse 20, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, well, most folk think that was 70 A.D., all done and gone. But Zechariah 14 says the day of the Lord comes, and that's the end time period. And it says all nations will be gathered against Jerusalem, not just Rome. Okay, so Christ gave a lead sign, and for Seventh-day Adventists who may be interested in this, their prophet, Ellen White, my prophet, I believe she's one of the greatest women that ever lived. She said that Jerusalem is a representation of what the church will be if it refuses to walk in the light God has given. I think we're about ready to get a lesson in what we could be because we are not walking in the light. She said so in Volume 8 of the Testimonies, page 247, and on page 250, when they voted the hierarchical church structure like the papacy has, she said, how has the faithful city become a harlot? My Father's house is made a house of merchandise, a place whence the divine presence and glory have departed. So we think, well, they look like sincere guys. I think, in Christ's time, the Jewish leaders looked sincere, and people believed them and thought they were fine, but maybe not fine. Maybe we aren't doing so well. And I just say, keep an open mind. She said we were in apostasy, and I tend to believe that. I could give you the reasons, but we don't want to go there right now. Anyway, so let's just see if there is indeed a surrounding of Jerusalem this springtime, as I believe could happen. It really is the heads-up sign for the messages that God gave us to give in Revelation 10, when pioneers gave two messages, a time of judgment, first angel's message, and the bridegroom comes. Neither message fit as they expected. And the angel, who was really Christ, when he put 1 foot on the land and 1 foot on the sea, that's ownership. He owns that. He's Christ. And he said, you must prophesy again after the bitter belly experience. And so prophesying again would mean do the things that brought the disappointment, the bitter belly, and it would be that first angel of judgment. Time of judgment is coming. And it's not investigative judgment like most Adventists think is going to go on until probation closes. No, it's investigative. The investigative judgment is ending. That's the time of the dead that they should be judged in Revelation 11:18. And the executive judgment, where judgments are executed or when they fall, that's what's impending. And it's life. It will be life or death issues. Just like in the book of Daniel, Daniel 1-6, there's life and death issues in each chapter, potentially. And I think, people say, oh, I'll be faithful, I'll be faithful. Well, if we're going to be faithful, now's the time to prove it by doing what Christ said. Get out of the city, okay? Cities are going to be bad. They will be death traps. We can see, as Ellen White says, coming events cast their shadow before. If you had been living in paradise, you might be homeless now. I know people who are, okay? So trouble with big city and even smaller cities, when things go down and there's martial law and you have no freedom, one shall be taken, the other left, okay? That was the next thing after Christ's parable of as the days of Noah, there was widespread destruction, and an event is coming. I believe it's an earthquake. Earthquake is the initiating factor to end times in this country. In Joel 2:10 and 11, it says there's an earthquake, and it's the day of the Lord. And Paul says the day of the Lord comes as a thief. When they're saying peace and safety, sudden destruction. Okay, well, that was the theme, peace and safety, for the UN last year. It was including those words. And so need to really have an exit plan for the city. If we wait to the last minute, Christ's words are, don't even go down into your house to get your stuff. If you see the abomination which early believers understood was the Roman army. We have military drills in this country we don't see as Rome behind it, but there, if you were to Google CIA, we think of it as a central intelligence agency, but some say it's the Catholic intelligence agency. Catholics run it, okay? They, in fact, it's been said to be the CIA is Catholics in action. Their board of directors, their people, etc. So that explains the deep state government, the problems that are happening, and even in that Pentagon, Donald Rumsfeld mentioned $2.3 trillion missing from the Pentagon budget on the eve of 9/11. It was September 10, and the next morning, a missile hits the Pentagon right in the accounting department. The first person on the scene said he didn't see any evidence of an airplane. No fuselage, no pieces. Later on, they said, well, it was an airplane. Okay. Well, I believe the first responder, and I believe that there would be no way that a Muslim hijacker could have flown a big plane right into the Pentagon accounting department where the trillions, this is not millions, not billions, but trillion, 2.3 missing from the Pentagon. And these are, think about the Catholic agency and all that. I think, hello, how to trace the money. Karen Hudes, Hudes, IMF whistleblower, says that money goes from our Federal Reserve, our tax dollars go to the UK bankers who take out 40% and send 60% on to the Vatican Bank. not good. You can search her name on YouTube and listen to it. I can send you a link if you need it. Anyway, I'm just saying we're in trouble in a greater way. People in Washington are surrounded by Maryland, okay, and graduates of Georgetown University, lawyers, Jesuits. Bottom line, a sign for the Jesuits that Protestantism was dead in the U.S. was when a U.S. president would take his oath of office facing the obelisk or George Washington's monument. That happened under Reagan, okay. First time that they moved the swearing in or inauguration to the West Lawn facing the Washington Monument. That was according to a former Jesuit priest, Alberto Rivera, who gave his life in testimony. They poisoned him, his wife said, as she related on the phone. So I'd say, things are way downstream and going over the falls. It's not coming back. America is not going to change. It's over for America and its freedoms. And in the country is the place to be. Anybody into survival understands that, and that the population-dense areas will be death traps. So have an exit plan and tell your friends, get out, it's time to do that. If you wait to the last minute, it will be more difficult. Thank you for considering this. God bless you. And if you want a good book for readiness for those events, this book, The Destruction of Jerusalem, which may happen after the surrounding of Jerusalem this spring, when the heads-up sign for us to give, the bridegroom comes wedding message, is explained there. Wedding parables we don't understand. It's like we're asleep with lights out in Matthew 25, verse 5. And when the cry, the bridegroom comes, it's a calamity. That's what happened in Egypt. When God came as bridegroom, he executed judgment and took Israel to a covenant. And we need to see how we can make a covenant and be his kingdom. The covenant makes us his kingdom. Daniel 2:44 says, "In the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom." It's not the second coming. It's like in Egypt. And Paul uses the Exodus when he said, I would not have you ignorant how that our fathers passed through the sea. All those things happened to them for examples written for us at the end. So when the bridegroom comes, it's not a rapture to the sky to eat cake in heaven. It's going to the wilderness and a 7-year period. So need to reinvestigate. It's not a rapture out of here like the Left Behind series said. They quoted Matthew 24 about one shall be taken, the other left. They failed to look at Luke 17 where the same words are found, where one shall be taken, the other left. But in Luke 17, the disciples asked, "Where, Lord? Where are they taken?" And Christ said, "Where the body is, there will the eagles be gathered." Not good to be taken. Okay, the flood took them all away too. Not good to be taken. It's good to be left behind, and so need to relook at our theology and end-time events to understand it better. And get a good book. It's on the internet. If you don't have a Kindle, you can get a app for your computer or a phone to read the book, and it's only a couple, $3, but it's worth a meal. We've been giving you a meal in the mind. We pay twice the price or 3 times that to eat food, but what about food for our mind? Need it, don't we? Thank you. God bless you, and talk to you again later. Please like this and share it with your friends. Bye.